Also, please allow me to ask, as a final question before the trial begins. Just how much work did you do to force me onto this stage?
Muchísimo.
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
Cierto.
I can cover the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward and easy.
Navia,
Échalo
the
desde ahí.
president of the Spina di Rosula.
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed
Sí.
into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the perfect opportunity to
Todo eso
incite
también.
Spina di Rosula tiene un
insurrection.
montón de gente,
The
entonces.
people's resentment
Es
against
que solo eran los
the
otros
has
dos.
been building as more and more of the
Todo
prophecies
eso que
fulfilled.
pasó era
A spark
cloro,
was
no.
all we needed to turn smoldering anger into a flame. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely flee the scene and head to Poisson by yourself. So, we arranged for a second group to lie in wait there.
So, you mean, the ones who scoured the settlement for me were also from the Spina?
Sí.
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest magic performance in all of Fontanian history.
That's right. That house was a
O sea,
magic box, rather than someone's residence.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the Opera Epiclese, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Aranias. Its cargo, of course, was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Furina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off such an extraordinary performance.
Todo estaba fríamente calculado.
Sí, todo
Of
estaba
course,
frío.
this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The
¿Ves?
House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location,
por eso que-
construct a giant magic
no
box,
estaba
dig a
directamente-
tunnel, and open up a path through the water. It was a lot of work for all of us.
Está bonito ahí.
So, in other words, the earthquake that we felt within the giant magic box was just a normal tremor
chaos.
from the transportation of the whole house?
That's right. It wasn't a sign
Aunque la
of another
movieron muy
disaster
rápido.
to come.
Then,
Recuerda
I
que
can guess
un-
Nouvellette and Cloran's
Porque-
parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion duelist would be immediately ready for a
Sí,
fight.
normalmente no está ahí.
Also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may commence without a hitch. Am I right?
Yes,
Literal.
that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage. Only the most outstanding champion duelist in all of Fontaine would accept a duel with an Archon without flinching.
Bueno.
Thank you.
As for you,
Sí.
Traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted with conversation once you found me in Poisson.
No,
You'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss
no.
before
verdad-
revealing yourself as
No,
my
la verdad que no.
prosecutor once we'd arrived onto the
Valer-
stage. Is that so? Then I suppose I must have missed my final chance.
Pobrecito.
Sí.
Pero estaba a
It's
punto de.
fine. It matters not.
Sí.
What's done is done. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through
Tranquilo.
to the very end.
¿Preparado?
No, la
Vas a
verdad.
utilizar todas las cosas que ya has conseguido en esta historia para jugar a
Madam
Furina.
Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this along. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the
Ve-
trial.
Te
According
lo
to
dije.
her, it should
Charlotte
speed
iba a
up
participar de una
proceedings.
manera indirecta.
Uy, me encanta.
Charlotte
Charlo
wanted
vino
to
con,
give us
con todos los hilos de Twitter.
Charlotte, oh my god, boys. Charlotte is in Fortnite, my Dragon Ball
a...
Legend.
Oh, let Paimon see.
Pándate, Don.
Isn't this the exclusive interview that she did with us before? So she's already finished it, huh?
Sí.
Wait, Then that means
Todo.
this document is a perfect timeline of everything that's happened ever since we stepped foot in Fontaine.
Así es.
Literalmente. Todo.
So in other words,
Todo lo
we
que ha
can
pasado
refer
lo
to
vas a
this
utilizar contra Furina.
anthology of evidence
Prepa.
every time we want to use something from our journey as evidence for an argument. Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, alright?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. I didn't think this is the first time
Tartar.
Monsieur Nervilette had a Fatul
Arlequino.
Harbinger, the Fortress of
Violet.
Merit. According to
Ballena.
Monsieur Nervilette, I nearly lost my
Avia.
awesome... The
N.
words of someone as extraordinary as a witch
Sí.
can
Sí.
probably...
Entiendo.
The prosecution and the defense are both in position.
Así es.
The trial shall now begin.
A ver.
Oh, come
¿Qué
on,
pasó?
Nervilette. There's no need to repeat all the unimportant legalese. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. As the defendant and the lead actress of this performance, I still haven't even been informed of my supposed guilt in all of this.
Ahí te
¿Cuál
va a
crees que
caer.
es?
It is
Ahorita te va a caer.
unnatural for humans to
no.
struggle
¿Cuál crees?
to understand the
No hace su
actions
trabajo
of
como-
God.
No sé su trabajo como
However, you
arconte.
will need more than
No, mira,
that
pausa,
to
pausa,
convict
pausa.
me of a crime.
Dime.
Piénsalo bien. ¿Cuál puede ser el crimen de...
No hacer nada por la profesión.
No.
No sé realmente. Estamos acá para ver eso, ¿no?
Ya.
That's
Vamos.
true, but my charge here is
Ay.
unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first place.
Fracuna.
What was that? Lady
Ahí
Furina's
está.
a fraud?
Me encanta.
Hey,
Es un fraude.
Está un fraude, Furina. You're strong.
Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty, but
No, tranquilo.
did I hear that right? She's not our Archon at all?
Así es.
Charge accepted.
Uy.
Lady Furina, do you plead guilty to the charge?
Sí.
Oh.
Uy, la está
Lady
dudando.
Furina,
I
¿Por qué la
plead
dudas?
not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Furina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be anything other than your true Archon.
Así es, Carl.
Yeah. Even though Lady Furina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her very identity?
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Furina can be super irresponsible, but what grounds does that prosecutor have to make such a huge claim?
Sure.
I have cause to
Hay
believe
muchas
that common sense will prevail in this case.
Hay muchas cosas que le quieren
Many
decir a
of the
Furina,
members
pero
of the
fraude no era
audience
una de
have
ellas.
known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no fooling their memory. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. Are you
Yes.
sure you want to commit to a charge that will never be upheld? If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the God of Justice that you will not have to face trial for making a false accusation. We will treat everything that's happened as a dramatic spectacle and move on with our lives. What do you say to that?
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? We have to not only refute Furina's claims, but also overturn the long-held beliefs of the people.
Literalmente. Pero ahora
Well, I tried
vas a tener
to
que
give you
estar...
a chance to surrender. If you must persist, then let me ask. If you believe I'm not the Archon, then what manner of being do you think I am?
Es
And if
una
I
osadía
was not the
por los spoilers
Archon,
que me he comido.
then how did I manage to live for over
sí y no.
500 years?
¿Cómo que no?
Mate esa huevada.
A ver.
¿Qué prueba puede ser?
Como que pausa, estamos en pausa.
No, ¿qué prueba puede servir?
Ah. Supongo que las que están en negrito no.
Obviamente no.
Tiene que ser esta. Dime que sí era.
First of all, you
Sí.
may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you to naturally possess an extended lifespan. And second of all, even if that wasn't the case, there could be other...
Who gave you
Oy, oy.
that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to use a harbinger's words against me.
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally resemble a type of curse.
Uy, uy.
But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse after all.
You sensed it too, huh, Neverlet?
¿Sí ves?
Lady Furina is actually a human?
¿Cómo?
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans and gods apart just by looking at them. It's not impossible.
Uy.
Ajajaja.
Well,
¿Qué te parece?
don't start
¿Crees que esto es
celebrating too early now.
No es lo que parece.
Even if I have been carrying a curse like you said, how does that prove that I am merely a human being? Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of authority. Gods can do what humans cannot. That's why they're worshipped as gods.
A ver, haz algo.
For centuries, manifestations of my authority have served the nation of Fontaine. One
¿Y
need
dónde
only to
está
turn their eyes towards the
la
Oratrice
boleta?
Mécanique
¿Dónde
d'Amélie
está?
Cardinal in this very opera house, or consider the endemitium that is used in every aspect of life.
¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está la boleta? ¿Dónde está?
Cierto. No tiene.
¿Dónde está?
No-
Muéstralas,
Ya.
te creo.
De True Behind the Scenes Disciplines, yo aquí. Tiene que ser este, ¿no? Es este.
¿Cuál te piden?
What evidence proves that Furina is not a master of the Oracle? Este. No,
Sí,
este.
sí, el de Child Convicted.
Sí.
Literalmente porque no sabía ni
You
siquiera
tried
cómo.
to reference the Oratrice. But weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the Oratrice declared Child to be guilty without any proof? Otherwise, you should have come up with a good explanation for that by now.
Cierto.
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for humans to comprehend.
Sí, seguro, seguro.
There is no need to provide an explanation.
Lady Furina, I believe a reminder of your current circumstances is in order. While the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law must come before all else. While you are an Archon, you are also first and foremost the defendant in this trial.
Cierto.
You will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you continue to withhold vital information against the rules of the court.
I never thought you'd
Uh,
use that kind of rhetoric against me.
Nubilet también está un poco
That was
cansado
no
de
trick
ella.
of rhetoric, Lady Furina.
Sí.
I've merely reiterated the rules of the court. Rules that all should respect and follow.
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor did you understand the structure and operations of the Oratrice. Instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of authority you mentioned have been made by the real Hydro Archon, haven't they?
Uy, uy.
The real Hydro Archon.
Yes.
Well, now you're really losing me. It is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict that day. But the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally, and it has been operating independently ever since it was first created. You can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the god behind it must also be no god at all.
¿Tú qué crees?
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof that she has no
Ahí está, ¿ves?
Power as an Archon. There are many ordinary citizens in the audience. How can I just carelessly demonstrate the formidable power of an Archon?
If that poses a
Fácil.
concern, I'm prepared to extend my protection to the audience.
Uy, Nubilet te fregó.
You don't
¿Qué crees
need
que va?
to go that far.
¿Qué crees que va a hacer?
No va a hacer nada.
Aren't you
No,
the
¿qué crees que
Hydro
le van a
Archon?
obligar?
Or is it that you can't even wield the power of Hydro, much less the authority of a god?
Uy, uy.
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their power from the faith of the people, and I've converted the people's faith in justice into Indemnitium!
Seguro.
Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy for their daily lives! Have you ever seen a more magnanimous god?
Isn't that a huge stretch?
La verdad es que sí.
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god with no power even still be called a god?
It seems like nobody's buying Furina's excuse.
Sí, ahí.
Hey,
Pero,
now everyone, please don't stare at me as if I was a liar. I'm still the same Furina you knew, right? The one that you loved. Shouldn't you want to believe in me?
Pero estás fregándola.
You've got to believe me.
If what the
Esa parte es un poco
prosecutor said is true,
Sí.
she really has committed a grave offense.
Uy, uy, uy.
Did she deceive all of us? And all of our parents and grandparents too?
Furina
And
es un
all
fraude.
our ancestors? Ever since they were born?
Enough. That's enough. Tell me then, if I'm not the real Hydro Archon, then who is?
Nubilet.
If you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence, nor can you find anyone who can back up their claim to be such, then what grounds have you to say that I'm not actually the real deal?
Tampoco has demostrado nada.
Wow, she came up with yet another argument. How can we refute her now?
Ok. ¿Cuál hacemos? No. No. No había Furina. No es esto. Tampoco es esto. ¿Cuál crees que es esto?
No recuerdo muy bien cuál era.
Algo me dice que es este. Algo me dice que es.
It has been established that all
Sí.
Fontanians can dissolve in water from the primordial.
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right here and now to
No,
eliminate
no.
all suspicions of you being the latter.
Uy, ¿tiene los ojos rojos?
Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court. Though you act in partnership with the prosecutor, you must still adhere to proper procedure.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. I swear this really will be the last time that I'll speak out of turn. Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson.
Uy.
As everyone knows, a massive flood struck the area not long ago, including those of some of my closest friends. So, Miss Furina, would you dare to touch some of this seawater? If we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching this seawater would have no effect on you. All it should do is strengthen your case. But if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any more people dissolve. I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of admitting guilt.
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years. I guess her suggestion is valid.
If Lady Furina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontanian like all the rest of us. Would she really dare to try?
Uy, lo va a hacer.
Sí. Adiós, Furina.
No, Furina.
Lady Furina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you possess the right to decline participation.
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a confession of guilt.
Cierto.
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word. It really does seem like she's quite terrified of it. That could only mean...
What's going on? Is she really planning to... That's not what we thought she would...
Ahí lo va a hacer.
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Furina, you may...
Hey!
Lo hizo.
you believe me now. I really am your Archon. I'm nothing like a normal human who would fall apart as soon as they touch this water. Really, was this not the most obvious thing in the world?
Miss Siegewin? If you're present, Miss Siegewin, please come forward and attend to the defendant.
Era una trampa. ¿Sabes por qué?
Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds. Let me see. That should be
El agua no era lo suficientemente concentrada para
Please announce the
eliminarlo.
results of your evaluation to the court, Miss Siegewin.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Furina was displaying symptoms of hyperventilation and flushed skin. These indicate that she was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as other humans when exposed to primordial seawater of a similar concentration.
Uy, la fregada.
Thank you, Miss Siegewin. Lady Furina, you may return to the defendant's stand.
Ah, pero esta es de la fortaleza,
What
¿no?
did she just say? I didn't get dissolved.
Mhm.
Shouldn't that be enough to prove my innocence?
Well,
No.
considering your tendency to run from your problems, we did originally prepare a direct sample of the seawater around Poisson. However, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to dissolve an actual human. After all, on the off chance that something entirely unexpected might occur, we don't want anyone else to lose their life to the sea.
Yeah, so out of regard for Furina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample and asked the Admiral to serve as an expert witness.
La cagaron
Great thing that the direct
Fue
sample wasn't
200 de Q
actually
porque
used.
sabían que Furina
Furina
pudo... Tú sabes.
I can't believe you. Listen to me, everyone. Please don't give me such cold and disdainful looks. What happened just now didn't prove a single thing. Think about it. How can you conclusively prove that an Archon can't also be affected by the primordial seawater? Also, if I was really just a human, why would I dare to just put my hand in that
¿Por qué
kind of
dudaste tanto?
water?
También. Se está desesperando mucho. Se está desesperando mucho, mono. Y ya nadie le cree.
Ya nadie le cree.
No, pobrecito.
Listen to me. I swear, I really am your Archon.
Uy, ya ni nosotros. Ni Newbillet, nadie. Ay, che.
La tienen contra las cuerdas, literalmente.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. The odds are just too stacked against her now.
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for Furina to win.
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
Uy.
Perdió.
Uy, se volvió VHS. Pero me está dando penita también.
No, sí, te lo juro, da mucha pena. Pero lamentablemente tenía que ser así para probar el punto. De que ella...
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Furina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Furina is...
guilty.
Guilty.
Se rompió todo, ¿no? Uy, se
Pero todavía
sentó. No, pobrecito.
¿No te recuerda algo a eso?
Ok.
We shall now turn to the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges.
Está todo cargado. A ver qué dice. Uy, está el rey.
Pausa.
No puedo pausar esto.
¿No viste cómo estaba Furina?
Llorando, sí.
¿No viste
According to
la
the
profecía?
judgment of the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale, Furina is...
¿Ver qué?
¿No viste algo? ¿No recuerdas algo que salió en la profecía?
De que estaba sentada y todo el mundo le está tirando piedras.
No. ¿Cómo es que terminaba todo?
Ah, ella sola.
No, ¿cómo está Bolivia? Acuérdate.
Ah, ok. Que todo hundido bajo el mar y ella sola.
Ese.
¿Qué?
Y llorando.
Uy.
Ante YouTube, mi tía me...
Julián no estaría sobre el mar.
No. The Oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
¿Qué dice?
Isn't that correct then?
Pero específicamente, mira.
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus. The Hydro Archon, guilty, to be punished via the death sentence.
¿Qué?
The death sentence?
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a myth.
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court. And it's been
Furina
given to
va
the
por
very
ir.
person we've worshipped as the god of justice? What an
La
unexpected
sentenciaron
twist.
a muerte. Anda, María Antonieta total.
To death by the Oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the seriousness of things so she'd tell us the truth. How did things escalate this quickly?
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as its recommendations for criminal sentences, is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Parece que sí.
Even Vacher wasn't sentenced to death by the Oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Cierto, dijo, le llamó Arcón Tigro.
Indeed. Not only is Furina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Furina has never been the Hydro Archon in the first place.
Y la Oratriz le llamó
Now,
Arcón.
the Oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon. What does this mean?
¿Qué significa, mono?
Ya lo vas a ver.
Excuse
Uy,
me,
Fermina.
if I may interrupt.
¿Qué va a decir, Fermina?
Is the trial still going?
No, ya acabó.
Fremine! Oh, you finally made it. I assume this means you've completed your mission?
Mm-hmm.
¿Qué misión?
Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
Encontrar la última parte de la profecía.
Prophecy slate?
Vacher.
La primera parte de la profecía.
Privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
Está preparado para
I
hacer
looked
toda la
everywhere
historia.
and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water. But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come too late?
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate.
¿Pero qué significa eso?
Traveler, I believe that you have already
Ya lo va a
seen
ver.
the other existing slates. And would like you to come here and confirm their contents.
Solo te diré lo siguiente. De manera indirecta, sin darte cuenta, sin pensarlo, has cumplido la profecía.
¿Qué?
Todo lo que decía la profecía ha sido cumplido.
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
Mira,
Archon just guilty
sorry.
of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's
El
Furina, and
original.
we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kinda talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to...
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will do her best to help you remember.
Era que pasaron cosas.
Muchas cosas.
Ahí tal vez la soledad, que le tiraban piedras y que el agua. Vamos a ver.
The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show does that mean that the second stone slate shows
Pues,
celestial
no.
floating in the
Los
sky,
tiros,
and the
los rayos.
Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together.
Te lo esquipeaste.
The
¿Qué
heavens
esquipié?
still
No.
brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the Hydro Archon sin are the same thing?
Así es.
The third slate
Es-
shows the
ah, no,
Hydro
que la
Archon
quemaron.
seeking into the sea surrounded by many people.
Ah, no, es el agua.
That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else?
A mí.
Well, the first slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying on her throne, and so on. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could
Eso es
happen
lo
at first,
que
did we? But
Sí, esa es
after
la misma
that
escena.
incident, it was just...
Pero acá es Furina. Supe.
That doesn't sound...
¿Cómo que no? Violet.
That doesn't...
No, ese es el del caso. El del caso.
We know from the
persona.
case, and the first stone slate tells us that this might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
¿Entiendes?
No.
Los humanos de Fontaine en verdad son oceanidades.
Eso yo te dije. Oceanias.
Sí, todos son oceanidades.
Ahora sí le toca a Furina. Es...
Perhaps what is about to take place has all the true sin of the Hydro Archon that Nervilet mentioned, and
No, pero que... No, esquipió.
Deja de esquipearlo.
No. Ah, el último es N, ¿no?
No.
Uy, ¿ves?
not as simple as falling into. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro.
Ese es el juicio que acaba de pasar.
A prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. If we hadn't dealt with it in time,
Solo de un clic.
things could have gone very badly.
Deja que hable nomás.
Ok, cuando no le doy clic no pasa.
Sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an oceanid.
Todos son oceanias.
The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin.
Uy.
Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was forced to take part in a trial meant to make her stay. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meripede was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what.
Todo se
Prophecy's
conecta.
contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truths should come to light.
Verificación completa. ¿Pero qué pasó con la sentencia de muerte?
La van a matar ahorita.
Oh, Paimon gets it now. So that's how you can make sense of it. But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelation.
Let's hear them.
Incredible. Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
Son oceanias.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with oceanids as their basis. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also...
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission.
Oy.
That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
O sea, castigaron a
And
Dios por
yes,
ser
after
Dios.
many hundreds of years, The Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea?
¿Qué has hecho, Ian?
So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also
Acabas
falling
de
into the sea once the
la
prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate?
Hecho que la profecía se cumpla.
The people will all be dissolved
Sí.
into the water.
Yo soy el Genshin
and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Oh, did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, I was Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. If everything goes well, we should...
Preparado para saber.
Yo nomás quiero que me salga un cutscene, que se termine la cutscene para poder terminar el video y poder grabar.
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you.
Ahorita que acabe esta cutscene ponemos un pausa y regreso más tardecito.
Yeah.
Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the 7, did not possess the authority to create a new form of not one to give in. She eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse. Their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids.
Acá nos quedamos. Okay, acá continúa la oración. Hoy está lloviendo.
The Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race.
Sacó la ulti.
And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
So
¿Entiendes?
Entiendo.
We were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
O sea, el por haber convertido a los
information for me.
I
think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing.
Con el poder del...
Me encanta lo petado que se escuchó eso.
Carajo, hijo de puta.
Ya, pero, o sea, el pecado fue convertir a sus Oceanids en humanos, y eso a los principios de la historia dijeron, no, manito, eso es racista.
O sea, no, porque técnicamente no es su autoridad utilizar el mar primordial.
Wait, but if that's the
Es
truth,
una
we can't let the
autoridad
Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, the only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontainian, but it does answer a lot of our questions.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the 3rd and 4th stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct.
Sí.
¿Qué crees que representa?
A key point of the visual on the 3rd slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids.
Sí.
They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice.
Entiendo.
Instead of being the literal element, the
Acabas de
water
decirlo
in
tú
the
mismo,
scene symbolizes judgment
¿Serio?
and justice.
broma.
You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the 3rd slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice. Yes,
Cumplimos la
it refers
profecía.
to our present situation.
Cumpliste la
I
profecía.
think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy,
Esa era la
in
profecía,
truth,
no.
everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the ones making sure it comes true.
Ah, la cagamos.
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Así es.
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions.
Uy, falacia.
About the fourth slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass, yes?
Así es.
However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a small warning of something far worse to come. As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before.
¿Otra vez?
This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come.
La última. La última, la última.
La ballena. Uy,
It
cierra la
was both
ballena.
dream and reality.
Sí. Lo deduciste al principio.
Es que yo vi la ballena nueva y dije, oye, eso es nuevo.
Inside the primordial sea, right?
Sí.
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
Es esa ballena gigante.
La última de Tartaglia siempre fue la profecía.
Oh, oh.
Uy, cinemática.
Se cumplió la profecía. Y ahora.
¿Es entonces la música de Tartaglia? Ay, qué suyo es eso. O sea, dijimos, es la ballena y salió la ballena.
La verdadera.
Esa es la música de Tartaglia, sí. Nos tiró Tartaglia la ulti.
No, no es Tartaglia.
¿Cómo que no?
Es el devorador de estrellas.
Esa es la ulti de Tartaglia.
Sí. Es donde vino.
A la mientras, hace un agujero negro en la boca.
¿Qué cosa más?
¿Qué cosa más?
Hablando de.
A la mientras. Uy, llegó Tristo.
¡Ahí está!
Ahí está activado esta vez, ¿eh?
Cuando cayó en el abismo, estuvo todo este tiempo peleando contra esa cosa.
A la mientras, todo el mes, o sea, los 45 días.
Sí.
Más.
Sí,
O
todo
sea, estuvo
este
con esa cosa prendida 47 días.
Sí.
¿Cómo no se murió? Y se ve.
Tiene mucha fe.
Oye, pero la armadura se le ve destrozada, ¿no? Y hasta la capa se le ve más chiquita. O sea, como que se le ve más, se le ve más chiquito.
Porque ya ha utilizado casi toda su energía.
Uy, le puso un pulgar abajo. Se murió.
That was way too close. How did that thing just burst into the upper
Controlar la realidad, me encanta.
Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your dream?
Así es.
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it has chosen to make an appearance here. That whale does not belong to Tevat.
¿Cómo que no?
It is a monster that has traversed the stars, weeping all the while.
Es un horror cósmico.
It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main cause for the rising sea levels.
O sea, tenemos un horror cósmico en todo esto. O sea, el lore se está expandiendo. Mi hoyo se expande.
O sea, de alguna manera podríamos decir que todo esto fue condenado, o sea, fue predecido y condenado por los principios divinos.
Ah, mientras Asmodei nos fregó desde el principio.
Sí.
You
Continúa.
said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontanians out of Oceanids, she filled their blood vessels with primordial seawater.
Así es.
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of Fontanians nigh impossible to resist. Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food. Food in the form of Fontanians.
We just barely managed to push it back, right? In that case, won't it come back to target the people again once it's managed to recover its strength?
That is
Creo que
correct.
se están olvidando de que
Indeed, it is more
Furina
accurate to
todavía
say
está
we
ahí.
should thank
Sí.
that harbinger for buying us some time.
Hasta Furina sigue
Without
llorando
him,
ahí.
the whale would have likely come onto land far sooner. From the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite a long time.
Te lo dije.
A ver, no creo que los 47 días porque... No, sí, los 47 días. Pero porque desapareció antes que nosotros fuéramos.
Anyway, now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the disaster recorded in the prophecy, all we need to do to stop the prophecy would be to find a way to beat it up, right?
Sí.
It is too late.
Puede ser. Ya condenaron a Furina a muerte.
It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could notice it. At this point, it has become practically integrated with the sea itself. Even if the entirety of Tevat were to be destroyed, it could still survive and swim off towards some other world.
That's not something I will accept. We've already done everything we can, and we even found the true culprit. We've come so far. You can't just tell me that the last hurdle is some impossible foe. That's just not fair.
La verdad es que no.
Indeed, that's not how a grand performance should end.
I'll fight it to the end, no matter what.
So the prophecy will be fulfilled no matter what, huh?
Bueno.
El emperador sabría qué hacer acá. Él sabe cómo evitar profecías.
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future.
Uy, N está hablando. El emperador sí podía. No, como no somos nivel emperador, no podemos. Pues.
Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods, could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods' gaze does not fall? Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Tevat's future. All you need to do is to play your part.
Sharingan.
Sí.
A ver. Sí. Me veo penita acá. Podemos ir a ver qué pasa con otra cinemática.
Lo siento, pero ya es muy tarde para Furina.
Ahí está.
Ya es muy tarde.
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Ay, no. Saquen a Furina de aquí.
No, I still need answers.
Ay, no, nos hizo un domain expansion.
2 domain expansion.
¿Qué fue? Uy, le cambiaron la ropa y todo.
Es que está preparada para ser juzgada ahora.
Oh, Nieto.